Welcome to Hop on Calls, a short, tactical, and practical podcast for outbound sales professionals looking to level up their game by learning from actual cold calls that I make every week live on LinkedIn. My name's Kevin Hopp, and I'm all about helping outbound sales professionals hone their craft and build high-quality pipeline. Let's dive right in and see what we can learn in this episode. Hello, everybody out there. Kevin Hopp, your host here on Hop on Calls, joining in from sunny San Diego. I'm really excited this week because Hop on Calls is going international. I love travel. I love going all over the world. I don't often get a chance to work with people that are across the pond. Everyone give a warm welcome to Charlotte Lloyd here. Charlotte,
Kevin.
Where in the world are you? Where in the world are you?
So I'm British, but I'm actually based in Madrid in Spain. It is 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, and I'm really stoked to be here.
Love that. Okay, so you're in Madrid, Spain.
Yeah.
Charlotte, tell the audience, if they've never heard of you before, they've never met you, why are you on a cold calling show? Like, what's your background in sales? What's the 1 minute story of Charlotte?
The 1 minute story of Charlotte. Okay, so I've been in sales for 20 years now, and you're probably thinking, what's she doing cold calls? And the message I want to give across to people is that you should be doing cold calls if you're in sales. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, right? I started back in, I think it was 2003. So doing telesales, that was my role. I had to make, I don't know how many dials back then, but it was something like 200 in an hour without any power dialers. So just dialing like the old phones, no cell phones. And different, things were different back then. I've done obviously a lot of face-to-face, a lot of travel. So my previous role compared to where I am now, I was doing a lot of events, trade shows, slightly less cold calling, but still, using the phone. And, I think today's sellers who are millennials and post-millennials, they kind of think that they don't need to use the phone. And you do need to use the phone, right? You do need to make those calls. You do need to set up that meeting. What I say to everybody is the objective of your cold call, go in with the mindset that you're not booking the meeting, right? You're going in, you're having a conversation, you're being real, you're being relevant, you're helping that person, right? You want to shine a light on a problem that they have and then sort of mention your solution, but obviously you want to get the next meeting. So if you go in with the mindset that you're not going to book the meeting, that you're talking to a friend, you then relax, your tone of voice is better, your timing is better, you pause. I used to do everything to sort of mess up my cold calls. And, sometimes I still have a bad cold call, but the more you do it, the more experience you have, the more you just sort of eat that frog and eat it 2 times a day, 2 hours a day. Then you're gonna have success.
I love eating frogs. Frogs are my favorite. In fact, frogs are my favorite. Awesome, and I love that you don't necessarily work in technology sales. I'm trying to bring in people from outside the SaaS world. I have a really large SaaS audience. Everything I've ever done is in SaaS companies, the whole Silicon Valley type sale. But you work for a bit of a different company, so talk to us a little bit about who you're calling on and what the story is there in a 1 minute synopsis. 1 minute synopsis.
Yeah. Okay. 1 minute synopsis. So, I work for a company. It's part of Global Data. We are a content or marketing technology solution. So we create content. We tell stories digitally, and we actually generate leads. Okay. So we don't always talk about that, but or phrase it that way. And a lot of, you're talking about sort of SaaS. Yes, this is, a software that that sort of my prospects will get, once we start telling the story for them, they'll be able to then have warm conversations and do warm outreach as opposed to doing cold outreach, all from content. And, a lot of the SaaS sales techniques you can apply to you don't have to just be selling to SaaS to use a lot of these techniques, right? You can use them in, if you're not selling SaaS. So I think it's really important to say, and state, because a lot of people think, it's SaaS sales, I can't use these cold calling techniques, or, they're not going to work. They do, right? Because what you're saying in your cold call is you're talking to another human. And, that's not going to really change depending on the industry that you're speaking to. So I speak to governments, right? Economic development, so locations. So I might speak to San Diego, I might be speaking to Ohio, I might be speaking to Charleston, or I might be speaking to somebody somewhere in Arizona. But ultimately, I speak to governments, to heads of marketing, VPs of marketing, VPs of economic development, which is essentially business development. So it's sales and marketing and the personas that I am calling on my cold calls.
Love it. Love it. And check it out. I did a little shout out. Everyone's shouting out where they're tuning in from here. We've got people from all over the world. Ireland, the Netherlands, St. Louis, Missouri. Matthew Herring tuning in on a airplane. Shout out to that. We got Canada, Santa Monica, California. Love that. Well, Charlotte, thanks for bringing the globe to Hop on Calls. We've got, I know your audience is very international. So let's dive right in here. I want to make sure that we can get some real live cold calls for everyone tuning in. If it's your first time, check it out, Hop on Calls. Just so you know, you're not going to be able to hear both sides of the audio. Why? It's called, lawyers and laws, and we can't just, cold call someone and put them live on a show without their consent. So you can hear both sides of the audio edited into a beautiful short podcast. Every week there are 2 podcasts that come out. Hop on Calls. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, on, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, look up Hop on Calls and check out the best moments from today's show and every other show in the past. Also, let's give a quick shout out to our title sponsor today, Kixie. Charlotte and I are both going to be using Kixie's power dialing feature today to make a lot of calls in a short period of time. Kixie is an all-in-one business telephony solution to serve your internal teams, your support teams, but most importantly, your sales teams. This power dialer feature is serious. We're going to have a lot of conversations. We're going to make a lot of calls. Shout out to Kixie. If you have not tried it out, I don't know what you're doing. All right. You ready, Charlotte? Let's both hit go, and we'll see who can get the first conversation of the day.
Hi, John. I know you're not expecting my call. Do you mind if I take a few moments to tell you why I'm calling, and you could decide if it makes sense if we should continue speaking?
All right.
So typically when I speak to economic developers like yourself, cities similar to Seattle, they're focused on several priorities. One of them is to reach companies earlier in their decision-making process to expand, grow, or relocate. And the second is to use new and creative strategies to be able to reach those companies. I'm just curious, are either of those a priority or a challenge for you at the moment? And if so, how much?
How did you get my number?
That's a great question. So I got it from LinkedIn.
Oh, my phone number?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible. Okay. Yeah, you call me on my personal line. If you want to reach me in my work, which is...
Sounds like it's inappropriate, John, to call you on your personal number.
Yeah, no, it isn't. Not for city business. But I'd be happy to sort of read through what you're pitching if you send me an email. Okay?
Yeah. John, how about we, I'd love to send you an email, but I think what would be better is if we could book maybe 15 minutes next week when I'm not cold calling you out the blue. And then...
I'd rather read what you have to say first in order for me to determine whether it's worth appropriate to have a further follow-up. So let's start with an email and then we can move to a phone call if I feel like that's something I want to do. Okay?
Okay. Sure, John.
Right.
Got it. I'm going to send you an email. I'll put just called you, and if you could reply and just confirm that you got it, and then I can put some time.
We'll go from there.
We'll go from there.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Bye.
Wow, our first conversation right out the gate. Love that. Second dial of the day. So what was the story here with what's the story there with John? I heard a few things from my side. Number one, hitting you with the classic, how'd you get this number? Which is, it's 2023. If people don't understand that, like, Everyone's personal data is out there. Like, it blows my mind, Charlotte. Charlotte, does it not blow your mind that people still are like, how'd you get my cell phone number that's on every email I've sent for the last 5 years? How could you find that number?
I think actually I actually got it from Lucia, but I just said LinkedIn. And a lot of people that I call are quite sort of they're older, they're sort of 50 plus, so they're not into technology as much. So I haven't had that I've had that objection. How did you get my number? Several times. But this is like a very recent one. So I think that's, a person that's not used to being called on their cell phone is going to say that, right?
Yeah. I guess, one of the things, it's like I don't know about you, but like I have, what's it called? Credit Karma. So Credit Karma tells me all the time that like every password I have has been compromised in a breach. My wife and I, we get letters in the mail, just checks from settlements of like companies we've worked with that get data breaches, and they send us a $5 check or whatever. So I know like basically every bit of Kevin Hopp's information, including probably my social and everything, is just out there. Like
it's out there,
yeah. Out there. Like you just know it's out there. It's 2023. Everyone has everything. So a suggestion for you. Next time someone says that, what I like to do is I like to put them into a bit of cognitive dissonance. Now, the cognitive dissonance is by saying, hey, I got this off of a public database. I'm sorry I'm calling your cell phone unexpected. Is there a better way to have a conversation with you?
Yeah, I like that.
Now, that's cognitive dissonance, because what's the answer to that question? No. There is no better way to have a conversation with them, right? So they're going to be like, no.
Exactly. That's a great one.
Because so we want to put them on ice for a second, and then we redirect immediately back to the point that we're talking about. And for me, that works more times than not. Just to get them, you got to get them off of that frame of mind, get them thinking a little differently right away about that.
Yeah.
But good job. That was a really solid one. That's a warm follow-up. I would call that a warm follow-up, where you can send that guy a very targeted email. He probably won't respond to the email, but we can follow up with him again and again and again, right?
Yeah, and I think, he said like send an email, and I did try to say, I don't want to just send you an email. Why don't we just book? I pushed into that sort of let's book the call, but I felt resistance from him, so I thought I'm actually gonna say, okay, I'll send you an email, put some times in there, and rather than push him any further.
Totally. Which is a great idea. The number one thing to do is always push for the call, but some people respond via email. Sometimes I get ahead of that, the normal back and forth of, send me an email. Okay, I'll send you an email. All right, cool, bye. I get ahead of that by saying, I'll send you an email, but the last 3 people that told me to do that never got back to me. Are you going to be different?
Yeah, or usually, if I send you an email, are you going to, often when I do that, it's just a way to get me off the phone, right? It's a nice way. It's a nice, polite way to say, I don't want to hear from you again.
That's right.
Are you going to respond? Yeah, it's a great one.
Hey, Steve. Kevin, Silver Sky here. How you doing?
Kevin from where?
Yeah, my name's Kevin. I'm with a company called Silver Sky Technologies. I know I'm catching you out of the blue here. Are you heads down on something, or do you have 1 minute to talk?
You know what? I'm at a luncheon for somebody retiring, and I'm actually retired myself.
Oh, no way. So this is You're retired?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Steve, I hope you enjoy your retirement. I hope you're playing a lot of golf. That's what I have planned for my retirement.
I'm enjoying leisure time, definitely.
Love that. All right, Steve. Sorry, I don't know how you ended up here. You were last involved in IT over at Midwest Ground Coverage?
Yep. Right now I just do consulting for them. That's where I'm actually sitting there now, because somebody is retiring. Somebody else.
Okay. There are other guys retiring. So, Steve, maybe you are the guy I want to speak to. Silver Sky Technology, we're a managed cybersecurity provider. Do you guys use a partner like that?
So last year, before I left, I signed with Archon for 5 years to basically do our full SOC. So we have a full SOC here.
Okay.
So we're good for another 3.5 years, or 4 years. 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys are in a long-term relationship.
Yep. So they watch everything for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Well, Steve, thanks for the information. Do appreciate it. Like I said, all fairways and greens for you, man. All fairways and greens.
All right. No problem. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. That was cool. So Steve.
Yeah.
So Steve sounded a little older, and then he said kind of right away, he's like, hey, I'm at a luncheon for a colleague who's retiring. And then he followed that up by saying, and I'm retired.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
So this is a really good example of just because you pop into the ear of the wrong person. You notice I said Steve, I confirmed his name, right? So now that I confirmed his name, which by the way I felt okay doing because I know he's retired. You know, I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I felt a little bit more okay saying it on the broadcast. So, anyways, I confirmed his name, and then I took that opportunity to like confirm that I'm talking to the right Steve that was at this company that I'm trying to reach, that I'm trying to learn about. Because right now there's a big gap. What's the gap? Here's me trying to sell cybersecurity. Here's what they're doing today. I don't know what's in between. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know their environment. I don't know who runs it. So I shifted my gears from trying to get Steve to be the one to set a meeting with to talk about this. And I said, Steve, help me understand. What are you guys doing for cybersecurity? Right? And when I talked about cybersecurity, he said, oh, okay, yeah, cybersecurity. Yeah, we have an outsourced firm. Just early or late last year, we signed a 5-year agreement with a different provider.
Yeah, so you got some great nuggets.
I just bridged that gap.
Yeah.
I went from 0 to 1. I went from not knowing anything about what his company is doing to knowing exactly what I need to know to prioritize this company in my outreach. If you're in a 5-year agreement, if you're barely in year 1 of a 5-year agreement, the odds of you changing are very, very low.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this one as a good no nurture. Good no nurture is what I call that. And that's all we got for today's episode of Hop on Calls, powered by Kixie. Be sure to tune into the live recordings every Tuesday on LinkedIn. Would love to have your comments, reactions, questions. It's a really good learning environment for anyone that is looking to do outbound sales better. If your organization is actively focusing on this, feel free to reach out to me, Kevin Hopp, on LinkedIn, or go to hopconsultinggroup.com. I'll see you next time. Cheers.